All right, how do I get you guys on here? There we go. Getting it all. Every time she sets this up, something goes wrong with it. Yes. Look at this other thing. Hmm. Hello, everyone. All right. I don't see Pete at all. Let me check on something. All right, I don't see Ordinance Committee. Okay. Okay, so he needs that. Yeah, I didn't get it. Send that to copy. Let's do send. No, I still don't have anybody. No. All right. I'm going to go check on some people in the building and see what's going on here. I'll be right back. Watch meeting. Why isn't that working? Yep. Okay. No, I can't do anything with that, can I? Copy. And that needs to go to just volunteer. Just volunteer.
So Pete's there, but it looks like the computer's calling him Tim Nichols.
No, that's the other computer. So I've got a couple of people that want to get on, so I'm sending them the address. Then I'm going downstairs. Every time the staff sets up the computers here, they don't work right, and I have to run around and fix them. But some people were on the phone, and so I didn't get a chance to check.
Okay.
It's like there's a different address that they're using, but there's only one address for the meeting. Everybody has the same information. It's kind of strange. All right, I'm going to send this out to a couple of people. Then I'm going downstairs to check.
I can see Pete. Can you see him, Catherine?
I cannot see him, which is strange.
Jason, you see him? Jason can see him too.
Maybe he's just gone on. I'm gonna sending out a couple of notices to people. I said they were interested, and then we'll try it again and see if we got, oh, Pete's there, good. He's on there as Tim Nichols. Isn't that weird? I'm gonna change that, find out what is going, that's really weird, because there's two computers set up, one downstairs for him, and then upstairs the one that Tim uses, and somehow he's on Tim's. Isn't that strange? All right, so let me fix his name. All right, come on.
Pete, do you want to unmute and see if we can hear you okay?
We'll fix him. All right, well, that's good. I wanted to go downstairs.
Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you.
Get the name fixed for you. Okay, we're all set. And we should have employees from the water sewer department. Annalise was going to join us, but she's had some personal family difficulties on Friday into now, and so she will not be able to. So Chris and her went over information, and he was going to present it. So everybody's got a copy in the interim here while we're waiting for the staff. Everybody's got a copy of the draft number 4 of the sewer use ordinance. And we've got the terms and conditions. And so this should be a short meeting, at least on the terms and conditions. And I wonder if just to make sure, if there's any further questions that people have or sections you want us to study or to look at other communities' terms and conditions, which usually are water departments. We can start with that one because Chris had information on the sewer ordinance. Most of the changes were to update things so that any changes that had happened at the PUC, we now reflected, because you wouldn't go in every time something got changed, you wouldn't go in and change your terms and conditions and send it in and have the PUC go through it, because they'd have hundreds of water districts in town sending things in all the time. So you would wait a while and then at a certain point send them in, which is what we've done. Oh, I got somebody up here. Oh, I wonder where he went. You're not. Okay. Let me go down and look at it. Same as system, okay. Okay, it needed to be changed for some reason. It might have got changed by somebody or. it- Okay, so now you should be able to talk. Device is not working properly. It is working. Let's see, let's have somebody talk.
We can hear you.
Okay, you can hear us, and you can hear them. Okay, we're all set, right? All right, I'm just gonna set these all up, before the meeting and make sure you'll be all set. All right, I'm back and you all are here. Terms and conditions. I don't have any additional information on that. There hadn't been any questions, but since we were going to work on the sewer ordinance, I thought I would just list it in case somebody had something. I'll give you a moment to look it over and see. A couple of you are looking at it. Oh, Chris Pelletier's here. That's good. Just got on.
Can everybody else hear? Oh, Catherine, I can't hear you.
You can't.
Jason or Pete, can you hear her?
Hello, this is Catherine.
Yeah,
I can. I couldn't before. That's why
I
I
can't
went
hear
up.
anybody now.
Yeah, isn't that
Oh,
strange?
here we go. I got you now.
Well, the internet's been working funny. Usually if it's snowing out, we'll have issues, but not when it's nice and sunny, but it's been acting funny all day here. All right, we got Chris here. Chris, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes. All right, we're all set to go. So we're working on the terms and conditions now to see, before we get into the sewer ordinance, and background information and questions that we have and outstanding issues, if there are anything on the terms and conditions that we'd like to discuss. Usually last time we did this, we've done it a couple of times while I'm here. Generally, we would be updating to the PUC requirements and fixing a few things that we had issues with. Updating the fees because they were tiny before. It might be $10 for the cost to go out and turn off a meter way back when. So we updated those. That was usually the items that we did, and that's similar to now.
Catherine, was there paperwork that I'm missing? Because I actually don't have any of all I have is the agenda for tonight. I don't have any of the other.
Okay, I gave packages to I put packages on the on your desk at the council meeting.
Okay.
I have the agenda and the sewer, but nothing new on the water. I didn't realize there were more changes. Are there more changes made since the last time?
No, there's no changes.
Okay.
Yeah, I put the sewer ordinance with it because that was a new one, and then noted, just look at your terms and conditions if you had anything. And it looks like we don't have anything basically.
Is the sewer for Pete? Is the sewer ordinance in the last email as well, Catherine?
I didn't get in the last email. I just got the agenda.
Okay. I was trying to get everybody their copies, so I put them on the desk. So let me go copy this for you. That's going to be easy to do.
Do we have this in electronic form that you can just email him real quick, or?
Well, he'd have to go off the screen and there's no email on the computer
Oh,
that he has.
okay.
So let me do this. Why don't you all start talking about the sewer ordinance and items that you have, anything in addition to who is responsible for the line out to the main. We'll work on that one together because Annalise and Chris collected up a lot of information from towns above Augusta, which are mostly like us rather than southern Maine towns and getting way up north.
Okay.
Meantime, I'll make a copy of this. Pete, your copy will not be all color coded, but I don't think that really matters because you got one at home. Yep. So I'll be right back.
Chris, do you know, is the blue the newest color?
I apologize. I don't have a copy in front of
Okay.
me. I elected to do it at home instead of from the office. I have a major water main repair to conduct in the morning, so I didn't want to spend a bunch of time at the office.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. There's so many colors and highlights. I wasn't sure which
Yes.
this was, but I'm assuming anything that's underlined is new, whether it's red or it's blue.
Yeah, and I think that's fine because when I went through this, I noted to Annalise that the colors didn't match up. Like there would be items, she said that red was mine or blue was hers, but they're all mixed together and the colors change. So I don't think it really is relevant.
Okay, we'll just go by whatever's not crossed out then.
Right.
So Chris, did you see anything else in here that was problematic aside from that connection issue?
No, everything else looked good to me. The sewer service connections was the only that I know some people have concerns with it or may want to make changes. And, I'm willing to talk about any of that, but
Okay.
I did a lot of research, like Catherine said, and Annalise helped me with that. I've been thinking from day one, that if we were the only ones who required the homeowner to own that service, then we should change. But if our rules were the same as everybody else, then they should probably stay that way.
What did you find when you were going through your?
I called 12 districts, everybody from Sangerville to Greater Augusta Utilities District. And I found two districts that do accept responsibility to the property line, but they're both about 300 service connections, and they were both put in new within the last 10 years. They're not an aging system like we are, and they're all only about 300 services apiece, where we're 1,300. So they're much smaller systems, and much newer systems. And everybody, Newport, and like I said, those two systems were Dover and Guilford Sangerville. Dexter, Clinton, Newport, Fairfield, Waterville, Winslow, Augusta, Skowhegan, Farmington, Anson, Madison, their rules were all the same as ours, as far as who owns what and who's responsible for what.
And those are long-standing policies.
Yes, they've been in place forever. The only difference I found is Augusta, Greater Augusta Utilities District, put a provision in. They had a situation with an elderly lady years ago. Her line failed under a main highway and she had no money. So they put a provision in that if you have a sudden catastrophic failure of your sewer service and it's underneath a main road, then the town would step in and assist you. But it's up to the homeowner to provide video proof of the failure. And they're very strict on their rules. Tim Wade from Greater Augusta said that he'd be willing, if you guys had questions, he'd be willing to talk with you as well. But he said if someone has tree roots, they consider that maintenance. They won't step in and help with that. If someone has one broken piece of pipe that can be fixed with a pipe patch or some other type of internal pipe repair, they won't fix that. He said their policy is very strict. If they're going to step in, it's a very strict policy, what they'll help with and what they won't.
Okay.
But they do
Jason,
have a provision in place.
Jason and Pete, did you have other questions about the other items in the sewer?
Well, the problem I'm having is why is the town responsible to the curb stop when it comes to the water, but not with the sewer? And how many other towns are that way?
Everybody's the same. When it comes to water, the towns responsible. The towns are all responsible for the water main all the way up to the water shutoff. And then from the water shutoff to the home is the homeowner's responsibility. And that's the same way in every town.
So that's standard practice then.
Yes. And like I said, except for a handful of sewer ordinances, the majority of sewer districts have the same policies we do.
So just to use an example, as a recent one, we had the person that had the rock that crushed their line off of their property. How is that a homeowner's responsibility underneath the road?
As the ordinance is written now, it's fully, that would be the same.
I know as
way
the
in
ordinance
any-
is written now, but
So
if
if we were to align our policy with what you're talking about with the Greater Augusta one, where they have the catastrophic
Correct.
policy where it's not a maintenance issue, having a rock under the road would not be a maintenance issue because a homeowner wouldn't have access to that. So that would be an example, I'm guessing, that the town would be able to have some leeway and go ahead and fix that. So I think that's where it falls in. My problem with all of this is sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. And where do you draw the line as far as what's catastrophic and what's not? And I feel like that could get us into a little bit of trouble with some people. If you say, oh, but you fixed so-and-so's pipe and it had like a 4-inch rock and mine has a 3-inch rock, and why do you not, do you know what I mean? I feel like it'll open a can of worms if we have that wiggle room. But at the same time, I agree with Pete. I'm like, what's a homeowner supposed to do about a rock under the road? I mean, it's not something that you can prevent happening.
But it would be the same situation in any other town. They except for Augusta, they would say, we're sorry, we sympathize, but it's your responsibility. Any
Yeah.
other town would say that.
That's the position we're in right now.
Mhm.
So
Right.
the question is whether we want to justify, can we justify changing the policy? It doesn't seem like it happens that often. And
Well-
do you want to open the town up to the liability or the possibility of having litigation over whether we do or whether we don't accept responsibility for something like that?
In my opinion, you're gonna have I know there's many services in town that are dated. And if we change this ordinance, I feel that everybody who's had any type of issue of any kind is going to want it fixed, or at least want us to look at fixing it. It's going to require us or them paying someone to video their services. And then you got to measure to see who's responsible to where. You got to know every road has a different right-of-way width. So you've got to know that, and you've got to be able to measure and locate, and there'll be a lot of extra work before you can even decide if it's something the town should fix. And it's also going to require the sewer rates to be increased by a lot to cover it. Right now we don't have it in the budget to do that.
Did Annalise do an analysis of if we started covering these things based on how many of these calls we get a year? How much more
I don't know if she did or not. The way I look at it is, if you take somebody that's built a new house or has already paid to have their service line fixed, we can't just pick and choose whose bills we're going to raise. So why should the people who have already got good plumbing pay for the ones that have the bad plumbing, because the rates are gonna have to go up in order to cover it.
Well, raising the rates would also cover them if they had issues going forward as well.
But chances are that, new houses and stuff are all put in with the proper pipe that'll last 100 years.
Yeah.
So if their bill has to go up by, we'll say, I don't know a number, we'll just say $50 to $100 a quarter. Is that really fair for them, who are probably never going to have an issue, to pay extra to help us fix some of these other services? That's the way I look at it.
Well, another question I have is, for instance, on Somerset Avenue, when the new main line was put in down the center of the road, how were those services tied in? And was it the homeowner's responsibility, or did the town take care of that? Because the lines had to get extended to the center of the road, at least on one side, because it hadn't been in the center of the road before.
Whenever we do a complete sewer main replacement, we do bring the services to the property line. But even after we replace the service to the property line, it still ultimately belongs to the homeowner. So if 20 years down the road there's a problem with it, the homeowner still has to fix it. But we try every time we replace a sewer main to make sure that the homeowner does not have to dig in the road. That's something we do as a courtesy. We don't have to do that, but as a courtesy, we do.
It's recommended on the state revolving loan fund program funding that we get, as well as USDA, that we do that. They bring it up.
Correct.
Make sure that the property owners, that if you're going down the road, you're going to do a complete overhaul, so that you have a reconstruction, a new line, a new main. They want to get in the lines to the customers too, so that nobody has to dig anything up.
So Pete, your position would be that it's fair for the homeowner to only have to pay until it reaches the road, the edge of the road.
Well, I realize the implications and the price of the money, but the curb stop's the curb stop. And if we're going to have them so they're responsible for the curb stop, then it should be that way with the sewer too. My opinion.
Like I said, most places are different departments. We just happen to be where, we have water and sewer combined, and some other towns are as well. But, some towns have sewer districts and completely separate water districts. Public Works in a lot of these towns run their sewer districts. But every water district, the rules are, as far as to the curb stop, are the same. Every sewer district, no matter who runs it, barely, the rules are different. Nobody goes to the property line.
Would it be different because there's actually a place where it stops, the curb stop, whereas with the sewer, it just continues on, from
Right.
the main to the house and back.
I guess one way to look at it is the sewer main is kind of like a CMP power line. It's put there for people to connect to. But when you buy a house, the line, if you buy a piece of land and put in poles and lines, you own all of that. CMP won't fix it for you. It's the same type of idea. We just give you a place to hook into, but it's up to you to maintain it.
I can see that.
Jason, what do you think?
I was kind of in line with Pete. I think maybe I was the one that brought that up originally, but you mentioned that Dover was one of the towns that owned to the curbs, that owned to the curb stop for both water and sewer. Is that correct?
They own to the property line, correct? Because they put brand new systems in there. Everything was completely replaced, the whole system, within the last 10 years.
In Dover it was?
Yes.
And they only have you said 300?
Somewhere around 300 customers, yes.
Oh, really? Wow.
How many do we have?
We have 1,300, give or take.
I would have thought Dover was a similar size as Pittsfield, but anyway, that's kind of neither here nor there. I don't know. Yeah, I was in line with the fact that, like, if the town owns the curb stop, they own to the curb stop, and it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's water, sewer, Anything
They're
else?
really two separate entities.
But no, I mean, I understand your CMP example is a very good example. I mean, I was just kind of thinking more along the lines, when the town replaces, say, Chinquette Street, and then my sewer goes to, it has an issue, and then I got to dig up the brand new road that you just put in. And you see that all over the place. There's a ton of roads that are dug up for sewer lines. I was just trying to kind of think of that and avoid that, and I don't know if maybe you can put correct wording or do some kind of courtesy thing that would allow like some kind of check when you're redoing this road. You check my house, or I check my house, and kind of coordinate it with the homeowners on that street. I know it's a lot of added finagling, but I don't know. I was just trying to avoid some of that stuff because those are eyesores. They are a pain. They never get put back in the same. There's always bumps and
Chinquette, for example, Chinquette, the sewer main was replaced on Chinquette, so all the services do go to the property line.
Oh, okay.
The sewer services have been.
That was just an
the road-
example because I live on that street.
Right,
But,
right.
in general,
Right,
that
and-
was really my main thing is kind of that, and it seemed more or less that the town was kind of picking and choosing what they felt like should go there. But I understand water. There is a shut off out there that kind of makes sense. You really don't want another flange in the sewer system. That's just
Well, we
added problems. I don't know. I guess
we took out a big loan. We took out a big loan or got a grant several years back for sludge removal, and money that we had left over, we used to replace some of the older sewer mains in town. That included Nickel Street, Chinquette Street, Paltoma Avenue, and all those streets, the services were brought to the property line. So nobody should ever have to dig under those roads again. Whether all the roads got paved again afterwards, now, that can make a difference because the trenches will settle different than the original road, and that can make a road rough. But for the most part, if it's something the town's going to do for a repair, it's going to be a complete line. It's not going to, usually we don't make many spot repairs.
Sure.
So,
to Heather's point, did Annalise ever do that analysis? She said last meeting that was something she was gonna take a look at and give us like a cost difference, how much it would put on the town and whatnot.
I haven't heard.
We did talk about that, and I don't believe she did it. She had a family emergency,
Okay.
a big family emergency. So she didn't get some of the items done that needed to be done. And she's unfortunately doing about 3 people's work at the company, and so that's not helping.
No, that's fine. I was just curious.
So we'll get that. We still have a little bit of time. I guess we might have more time now.
Yeah, I don't know. Guess my opinion kind of is flip-floppy at this point.
It's
Well,
tough.
Chris
There was
brings
some-
up good points, but
There was new language in here. It's on page 9-7. There was some new language talking about the other thing too that we had talked about with section 304 with the if a new sewer line becomes available, if somebody's using a private septic now, but there's a new sewer service available, requiring them to hook in.
That's state law. If a sewer main runs within 200 feet of a property line, and if you have an active sewer service now, if it fails, you have to tie into the sewer main. You can't rehab your septic system.
yeah, once it fails, which is what
Right.
it kind of says here, useful life, right?
Right.
Duration of its useful life. So that
Yeah. So that's not a Pittsfield thing.
when it
That's
fails, you're done.
yeah, and
Well,
that's
there's
not
a-
Pittsfield. That's state law.
Well, there's language here that says at such time as a public sewer becomes available to a property, served by a private sewer system, connection shall be made to the public sewer in compliance. Any septic system, cesspools, or private sewage disposal facility shall be abandoned and filled with suitable material. And then it talks about unless you have to dig up a public highway or it's otherwise prohibited. This makes it sound like if a sewer main is put in, then you have to hook into that even if your septic system is working fine. It's not addressing like a
I'd have to ask questions. I believe as long as your septic is working, you're okay until you have a problem. But I'd have to ask those questions to know for sure.
Well, that's not what our current regulations say. And then this got enhanced a bit more too. And generally what happens in the sewer ordinances I've seen, I've had those in several communities, when the new sewer system goes through, people hook onto it if it's a new road. So the town or the district will want a payment from those individuals to hook in because it's along a new road. If it's along a regular road where it's already been there, they would want people to hook in so they would get billings from them to pay for the system. But usually there's an exemption, in case either your system is working well, there can be a period of time that would be 10 years or 15 years that then you have to hook in, which I will say is a nightmare to keep track of. And usually the records are lost by the time the 15th year comes by, and different people come and go all the time. So that's not good. Often people will want to hook in, but if somebody had just done a septic system, why would they want to? So
Right.
I mean, that's what's highlighted in yellow, right?
Mhm.
You see that, Heather?
Yes.
No, at the top.
Yeah, it's highlighted in yellow.
30.
Upon inspection to the satisfaction of the LPI. Is that what you're reading?
Yeah. The town may
Continue.
allow continued use of a private wastewater disposal system for the duration of the useful life.
Okay.
Yeah, so we would have to, let's say a new line went in and it was the regulation that everybody had to hook into it. There's septic systems up and down the road. We would need to have the code officer or the plumbing inspector go look at all the properties and keep a list in their office in another location too, as to the systems. And then over the years, people will show up because the system has failed and want to hook to the sewer system. And of course, Chris knows about the ones that we found from when Waverly, for example, and other roads were done in the 80s with the CDGB, Community Development Block Grant monies, and how the new sewer was put in, everybody was supposed to hook in, or on other roads where the sewer line was abandoned and kept as a stormwater drainage system. And then people were hooked to the new sewer line. People were overlooked or didn't hook in. And then all of a sudden, sewage backing up everywhere. And we find out they're on either a line that doesn't work or they're on a stormwater drainage line. And we've had at least 10 or 12 of those since I've been here. Scattered.
Yeah, I remember a few.
Mhm.
So just to clarify, the second paragraph in section 304, it seems like it says a separate, like the opposite of that highlighted section. Is that supposed to replace it, or is that being replaced by the highlighted section, or are they all taken together?
All right.
One says this connection shall be made, and then above that it says if it's inspected and you can continue to allow them to use it. It seems like they're contradicting each other.
All right, let's read the whole thing. Yeah, this is why when I do an ordinance, I always put what the colors are, but usually there's not this many colors too. Let's read the whole thing and see there's different things. There's multiple items in here, which is what's causing the confusion. All right, let's just read down through each of us. All right, the first paragraph is all when if the property's been inspected and the system's good, they can continue on the private disposal system for the duration of its useful life, and there'll be a list that indicates that those ones have been done with the date of the inspection. And the second paragraph, it's almost as though there's an exemption, and the exemption is above the requirement, and probably those two should be shifted around.
Well, no,
I guess that's
I mean, I
what-
think you're giving it the exemption, and then it's telling you that once it fails, then you are required to hook into that. Like Chris said, you can't replace what you have for a private septic system or whatever. So you got, the town allows you to keep what you have for a private system, and then your private system fails, and then you're required to tie into the public system. It shouldn't really be a new paragraph. It's all one.
Right. I think if it was all together, it would be clearer.
Yeah, I think Catherine's right that bold in red, the second paragraph needs to be inserted before upon inspection.
Mhm.
Because basically you're saying you need to hook in, and then the exception should come after that, which is the inspection and satisfaction of the system.
And then once we get down to the third and fourth paragraph, let's read those.
I'm not sure what that third one is even saying.
Yeah, we've got a couple of them. The third and the fourth one are about the same thing, but different language requirements. For example, Somerset Avenue, when it got paved, there's a 5-year moratorium. So let's say somebody wanted to go in and build a store or a house. They would be required to hook to the sewer system, but you can't dig the road, or you can't dig to the road to get to the sewer system because of the moratorium. So you would be allowed to put a septic system in because there's no way you could build on that lot. We'd be prohibiting them, or the state would be, because of the moratorium, and you want them to be able to use their property. So that's a specific case, and that has happened in town. So the people have just hooked to they've done a septic system to get by.
So we tell them
Catherine,
that
I
you have
believe,
to-
go ahead, Heather.
Sorry, so that in that instance, you're telling them that they can't dig up the road, they have to put a septic system in, but there's a new septic there, but we're not gonna allow them to hook up to it because the state, that's the part about the state prohibiting it.
There's moratorium, and sometimes the state will not give an exemption no matter what. And so the people can't use their property, and that has happened in town.
Do we have lots that aren't big enough to have septic systems on them, size wise?
All right, so that would be another case. There are lots that are non-conforming that there's no way you could put a septic on. Yeah, those would normally not be on the state roads. They're usually on the in-town little urban lots, but that doesn't mean there's not one someplace on a state road. The state roads are the ones that have the moratoriums put on them because of the cost of doing the project. The town has never done a moratorium on a road.
Chris, what were you gonna say?
I don't even remember now.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Well, what we've got is language from different regulations all put together in this section to deal with a whole bunch of issues, and they're all together. Now, this fourth one talks about toilet facilities. I don't even see why that should be in there.
Well, that's a subdivision, addressing subdivisions.
Yep, subdivision property. Future.
It is called toilet facilities for homes up in the first paragraph too. So I think that's just consistency of language for that. So the exceptions that the town would be granting here would be telling them that they can put the septic system in instead of hooking into the sewer pipe then.
Yes.
That would be the exception. Okay.
Which makes sense. So they can get exceptions from the LPI if they have a system that's in good shape when the new sewer goes by. And then there'll be cases on the state roads in which there is a moratorium. And there's no way that the state will give them an exemption. It's not in year 4 of the moratorium instead of year 1, and they might give an exemption. You just can't get one. So you would be allowed to install a septic system if your lot will let you.
Would we want to use this same procedure dealing with somebody that has a damaged line under a road, giving them the option to put a septic in instead of fixing that sewer and requiring them to hook to the sewer?
I don't think that would work. For example, the one with the crushed rock, you know, there's other houses all around them. There's no place to put a leach field. And,
Right.
you know, I don't think it legally, I don't think state law would allow for it.
So in
It'd
that
probably be more
respect, can they,
expensive anyway.
yeah,
Right.
can they tie into somebody else's pipe leading from their house, or is that just a nightmare because of angles and
That
dips
that
and
creates
whatnot?
a whole nother nightmare.
Which-
Mhm.
Once
You
you,
just had that on Chinquet, I mean on Summer Street, didn't you, Chris?
what,
Yellow
oh, a
House?
nightmare.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
there's some,
were
I'm
owned
still
by,
not sure what's going on.
no, they figured it out, but the Chinquet house on the corner tied into the other Chinquet house that was on the street below, and now
Yep.
2 different people own them.
Mhm.
And when that
Yep.
one backs up, it's gonna back up that other people's houses. I don't know why they ever allowed that, but it was way back in
Well,
the day, obviously, but
The same guy built both houses. He owned all that land, so
right,
he weren't going to tell himself no.
right.
You know what I
yeah,
mean? That's
Right.
how that happened.
But that goes into what Heather's saying. You wouldn't ever want to tie into somebody else's line.
No, no.
I don't even think they wouldn't. I would imagine they wouldn't allow it.
There's
So-
been a couple, but they've been found and separated. And
Oh yeah.
So as far as this here, are we okay with this discussion? As far as whether or not people should be required to hook into the septic or not? With this exemption of if they have their system inspected, then they can go ahead and do that. It sounds reasonable to me.
Mhm.
yeah,
That's
Give them
reasonable.
option for that.
I'm still stuck on the tying in whose
Yeah,
responsibility.
we gotta circle back around to that again. We kind of got off on
Okay.
this. But
I'm good with this one.
yeah, I think
Easier ones.
Yeah, the useful
Looking at
life, that
this-
makes sense.
yeah, I mean, it seems like a good way to think about it, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it still brings us back to the issue of if you do have a failure of some kind in your sewer line, you know, the options is that the homeowner has to pay for the whole thing. The town has to pay for the whole thing. We could split the cost half and half, have the homeowner pay it part way until it gets into the under the road or something.
I guess another way to look at it, Heather, is out of I've been here for 15 years, and there's been a lot of people that have had to replace their services because they've been bad. And up until there was a problem on Main Street where there was concrete under the road, nobody has had a problem with it.
That was
You
what
know,
started. Mhm.
right. There's been many, many people in this town that have had to go across the road, through the road, dig up the road, but none of them have had concrete, and it's never been a problem until this recent situation. That's when the rules started getting questioned, was when someone had to dig under a concrete road.
It's Main
But
Street.
all these other people that have had to do it, no one said, well, geez, maybe the town should do that. You know what I mean? They're just like, sorry, you have to do this, but it's your responsibility. Nobody
that
offered to help them.
Is that because this is the state road that we're talking about, or the fact that it's concrete under the tar that is proving to be the issue?
It's a state road, and when it was originally built, it was just a narrow concrete road. And in order to widen it, they just paved over it and made it wider. But you take, I know people on West Street and some other streets, they've had to dig all the way across the road. And, you know, nobody ever complained. They just understood that's how it was. But now that we've had one or two issues on Main Street, the whole ordinance is being looked at as if to say it's not fair. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It didn't seem like it was a problem when it was happening somewhere else in town.
It's the wider roads, which are the state roads, and the Main Street is a major issue because of the concrete.
So I guess one question is, when you have this issue on a state road, does the state have to come in and do the work on the road? Or
Nope.
does the town has to do it and just put it back to state standards after the fact?
Well, if we changed the ordinance to the point where we had to do it, it would be up to the town. And the town isn't equipped to be able to do jobs that big, just like the homeowners are. It would all have to be hired out.
So we just need to stop putting sewer lines and water lines underneath roads would be the best thing to do. Put them under the sidewalks or across the lawns next to it or something. I mean, it just seems like a bad idea.
It is a
The
bad.
state has gone through other parts of Route 100 and pulled all the concrete out. I wish they'd do that here in town.
Is that
It
what they
would be
did in Dexter a couple years ago? They like rehabbed that whole road. They took it right down to gravel, and
Yep.
they did sewer and water lines too at the same time, I think.
Yep. And they pulled all that concrete out, and I wish they'd do that here.
Is there concrete under the road that's gonna be done next summer, Catherine or Chris? Do you guys know that? That's the one that's got concrete?
Main Street, yep.
And they are not, the state has said absolutely not, they're not taking the concrete out. It will make a project that already is, you know, out of control in cost, just be beyond
Yeah.
their ability to do it.
So reclaim it, put it back down.
Well, similar to the rock example, the other problem that I'm having with is, say a water main breaks, washes out, my sewer line collapses because of the water main washing out the gravel. And now all of a sudden I didn't have a problem, but now it's my responsibility to replace my sewer line out to the
The
street.
chances of that happening are
They're
not
pretty,
very.
they're pretty slim, but so is the rock that crushed that lady's
Yeah.
sewer line under the
You know,
road.
generally, if a water main breaks, the water comes straight up in the air, and anything affected is seen in the repair trench, and it's addressed at that time. So the chances of that actually happening are pretty small.
Unless in wintertime, because it happened at School Street and there's been an issue.
Not since I've been here that I'm aware of.
They had that water main that broke at School Street right about in front of my current house.
I'm not sure when that was, but
There have been some issues on School Street. Mhm.
So I guess my sticking point on this, as far as who repairs what, is that before I were to consider whether or not the town should take responsibility for some of the repair costs of those lines, is we need to know how much that would cost. So I guess that goes back to Annalise and trying to figure out, you know, how much would we need in addition to address these items. And within the ordinance, would we, because it doesn't seem like it's a problem on some roads, but on Route 100, because of the construction of the road, would we be able to write into the ordinance that it would only apply to certain type or styles of constructed roads or something like that?
I think you'd ask for trouble doing that, because then everybody would say, you know, why is that those people better than we are somewhere else?
Well, it's not the person, it's the road that you have to dig
Right.
under is the issue, you know, and that seems to be what's causing all of this, is that, you know, if you're talking about a side street road, it's pretty easy to get in and out of there. But when you're going under a main highway that has the road and then concrete underneath it, that seems to be the big issue.
Maybe we can put in, if it's a certain type of highway, that would exclude, you know, some roads like Madawaska or Heartland Avenue. Let me think about that. I don't think that's discriminatory. It's a whole different situation. It's a whole different issue. You need to have traffic control. You've got a wider road. You've got all of the the mobilization and everything. Whereas like on my road, when I moved into my house and within 1 week, had to be a major dig. I was on a side street. We just blocked it off. You know, it's a totally different situation.
I think that doing it that way and talking about it in the language of the road makes the ordinance addressing certain conditions and not like a person or a house or a neighborhood. It's like the road, and you can point to the actual conditions that create the issues that you would need to have a special ordinance around it. So it would make it more more objective, less subjective to a particular situation, I guess.
No, I think that's reasonable because, as Chris said, I mean, many people have had to dig their sewer lines. There's multiple people in the town office, town employees, committee members, citizens, and it really wasn't a huge issue. But if we lived on Main Street, it would have been a totally different issue. So I think that's the point that we have to focus in on.
And part of it, you know, if you have, like, I don't have sewer system, but if my septic fails, I have to pay the cost of that as part of home ownership.
Right.
And something breaks, you got to fix it. And, you know,
Right, and it's the same with a service.
depends, you know, if it's your service, it's your service. If it's your, you know, your line, something happens to your line, the frost heaves something or whatever, then it breaks or whatever, then you have to fix it. It's just a different scale and a different issue. You know,
Right.
we have to have our tanks pumped. So it's, you know, it's a different type of maintenance issue based on the service. So.
I mean, you know, Chris, when something goes wrong on Main Street, which fortunately there hasn't been much, it's like, oh no, you know, we got to go down there and deal with, you know, the state and all of that. So, you know, both of us have felt bad for the citizens. Luckily, there hasn't been much, but there definitely has been an issue there. All right, so I will talk to Annalise, look around at the language. I think we focus on the road and the unique situation that we have on at least one road, if not more. They're not the town roads.
So are we at the point where, what is the time, is the timing of this to have it be at public hearing along with the water
Well,
stuff?
that's what we had planned to do. And then today I was notified that due to the emergency that took place last week, Annalise did not get the rate filing done on Friday. And so because of that, we're going to have to move the public hearing back. So we will
Gonna
not.
look at June.
Yep, so we will not need the special council meeting on May 25th, which we created because there would have been multiple public hearings at school in town on the 18th when the school moved their meeting to that night because of timing issues. So I asked if we would be able to do this on June 1 because we're running out of time here.
Yeah.
And we're going to be halfway through the budget. And we, you know, if we're going to do all these new items that's been identified and deal with having enough money to put in the backup generator, you know, we've got to get the rate increase in here. If we're going to keep everything the status quo, we can limp by, you know, for a while. So she said June 1st will work and she will make sure this gets done. So we're back to a regular council meeting now, which means that if we do have any hearings on dangerous buildings, of which we do have 2 to 3, we will not do them on June 1st. It'll just be too confusing.
I like that idea. Let's not put them all in one evening.
We won't want to, you know, that meeting will run out of Zoom capabilities there.
Yeah. Okay, so that's where we're at. We'll wait to hear back about the cost estimates of it and then see what can be crafted around the roads on that. And it sounds like everybody was happy with the section 304. Jason, what else did you have?
Yeah, I think there's something in there that was like if it was a significant cost to the homeowner, like the town could help them out in certain situations. I think that was in there already.
No, that's what Augusta does. Greater Augusta Utilities District has a provision.
Okay,
That if it's
like, I mean, some people, if their sewer collapsed, regardless of what the rules say, they just wouldn't be able to do it. The cost might be too big and they could just, not be able to do it. I think the town or somebody should be able to, say, okay, yeah, we can help you out in this situation. I don't know all the legality or the verbiage that you would have to put behind that, but I don't know. I just feel like in the very few times that it's happened since, Chris has been here and maybe going forward, it might not ever occur, but I don't know. I just feel like we could help out those people in certain situations that are on, especially on fixed incomes, senior citizens or whatever, that's a cost that they're just really not ready to do or whatever.
Jason, are you thinking that the town would like share the cost of it, or the town would do the work and then spread the cost out to like give them almost like do it on payments along with their regular sewer payments, just increase their sewer payments
Yeah,
to
that
cover it or something?
that, or they, they get it fixed and then the town gives them a break on their sewer system, for a while or something. I don't know. This is me just kind of thinking out of the box and
Yeah.
and spitfire. And I'm maybe Annalise has a better idea of some things we could do around that, but I don't know. I think that's kind of tough for in certain situations.
Pete, what do you think?
I know it's a
Oh, that's-
rabbit hole type situation,
Yeah.
who's making that call and who, just because I can afford it, why do I have to pay for it type deal. I mean, that's,
Well, you could lean back on the general assistance type income guidelines or something like that for deciding whether or not somebody would qualify for something like that.
right.
Well, I thought your approach, Heather, was a good way to look at it, is do it by the what's the condition of the road? Is it a town road? Is it a state road? Does it have concrete on it? So looking at the actual road condition to generate the exception, I guess, would be, I mean, I'd have less heartburn. Because I'm in Jason's court too, but I also know that it's a lot of cost to, no matter who's gonna do it, whether it's town or the homeowner.
Right.
So here's an idea. So Jason's looking for some way that we can kind of help, the town can help mitigate the cost for some of these really costly sewer repairs. We have like charitable giving in the budget that we donate to like the food pantry and the senior group, and I think there's 2 other things in there.
Yeah,
Would it be
That would be it now.
would
Yes.
it be possible, Catherine, to institute another thing that would be like for catastrophic sewer repair and put a small amount of money in that each year, that if something like this did come up, that there would be a fund there that in essence the town would be helping people to do that, and that they could have a small rebate or something to help them get this done. And then there would be some type of committee, a lot like I don't know, the abatement committee or something like that, that would be able to see if there was justification for using those funds. Is this making any sense?
It is. We have to figure out the exact income requirements that we would use, whether it be GA or something else in the application and how it would be done. Right now, we run the general assistance program, and then we have all of the different fuel funds that are donated, and people will, when they donate, it will say for seniors or for disabled or for anybody. So we have to keep those monies all separate, which is fine. But we don't use an application. We just go down and ask them a few questions because they're usually elderly or they're people that really do need help. So we don't want to scare them away with the general assistance application. So I'm wondering if we get strict and run a GA application, how people are going to look at that. If, I got to think.
It wouldn't have to be that. I'm just using that as an example of like some guidelines. If we had some guidelines set up similar to that obviously you wouldn't want it to be exactly the same because it is quite cumbersome, but just the general idea of having a fund to assist homeowners that, just like Jason said, just will not be able to make the repairs, because you certainly don't want somebody, if this happens in the winter, you don't want somebody living in their home without septic service, and you want it to be repaired because it's leaking somewhere, or it's backing up in their home, and that's a health issue too. So I like Jason's idea of being able to help people that just really cannot afford to do this on their own.
All right, we'll think about that and find out if there's any other income guidelines we can use or application versus the general assistance, because it'll be like we're running general assistance applications, and those are complex now.
I think Annalise had a specific verbiage that she mentioned in the past, so maybe we can reach out to her and see what she thinks about that situation.
We can, we still would have to have, depending on the situation, we'd have to determine, like, if it's catastrophic, what does that mean? That gets back to the original discussion. All right, let me look at that. I know what the purpose is here, to figure out.
We have to keep in mind that, catastrophic to one person is not the same as catastrophic to another person. Catastrophic to one person could be a $500 repair. Catastrophic to somebody else could be just an inconvenience. So it's
what Augusta uses for a definition of catastrophic is complete pipe failure, no sewage flow. That's catastrophic.
Yeah.
That's what their definition is.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
So we do have some homes, just in the back of your mind, we do have some homes that, because their water and sewer lines failed, either or both, people moved out of those homes. It was a long time ago before I got here, but there's records that show this, and they didn't have the money to repair things. But usually those houses where that happens, they're already in really bad shape and probably shouldn't have been inhabited.
Okay. All right, well, we'll look for more information coming on this. Was there any other items that anybody had with the sewer?
I think we're really down to this particular item where we began, really, and then we got sidetracked, so let's rewrite the whole ordinance to take care of everything that's come up, or items that would be good to address. I'm all set. I'll talk with Annalise. You all know, and then I'll put in the council package that will be rescheduling the public hearing on the water rate increase potential. In fact, I'm going to put in there that we'll reschedule it just so we can get things going here.
So is there any other new business ordinance stuff, Catherine? Are we still waiting on things from the planning board?
Yeah, and I don't see the planning board right now. Many applications for site plan are coming in, so we're going to work on that. I don't see with the time frame to go through each site plan application that the planning board, at least for the next 2 meetings, will be getting back to their ordinance writing. I've given them everything I can on the development subdivisions and trying to get the housing going. And what I'm going to propose is that just be moved to the Pittsfield Economic Expansion Corporation. I don't see the planning board being able to do any more work in that area. We'll leave all the other ordinance items with them. We might even be able to move over the tiny houses, and this isn't to rewrite the ordinances, this is just to put the concepts all together to help the planning board. I think they're going to be very, very busy now.
So are they still meeting only once a month?
They're meeting once a month, yes.
It might help workflow if they met more than once a month, if they're getting a lot of site plan applications.
Yeah, that has been suggested.
Many times.
Yes, I think that right now, while we've got our cobbled together system of the three individuals covering items, and myself, and now Kathy, the new Kathy in the office working too on planning issues. This is pretty much what we'll do for a little while here until we get everything all set and get KV Cog in so that they actually do the reviews of the site plan items, applications. I've explained to the code officer that he really, we arranged for this and we need to go through with that to help the planning board.
Okay. So everything else is on hold. And are you gonna get Wrangle Peak together to start working on that, on the subdivision stuff?
I just, all of the, now that we do the audits over the internet and the email and Zoom and everything, every single document has to go to the auditors, and I've done a lot of Excel spreadsheets to help them out and source documents. And I just finished that after some marathon sessions and found the last online credit card posting that went to different accounts from the numbers getting changed in the state system. So I finished all of that. So now I need a couple of weeks to get caught up on other items, and then we'll head off to Peak and everything. That was a massive amount of time, and it's done.
So maybe Peak can kind of tackle that in June as well.
Yes, that'll be good. And it might be able to do it sooner. I just need a couple of weeks to work on all the items that have accumulated.
Okay, yeah.
More and everything. Hopefully everybody will be back in the office now from medical and other, and then I'll delegate more things.
Okay, so I think we were supposed to have our next ordinance committee meeting on the 25th, and we had moved that because we were going to have that special hearing. Do we want to have one scheduled for the 25th? Do you think that we'll be going back over the sewer with the cost estimates and stuff from Annalise on that meeting, or?
We're going to have to do that prior to that.
Okay.
We've got the correct language in there. If the public hearing is on June 1st, we're going
we have to set it to public hearing. Do we have to do that again at the council to set it to public hearing on June 1st?
Yes, and prior to that, we'll see how the scheduling works out, and if Annalise is able to work each day, and in dealing with her family emergency situation.
Okay.
That's going to determine if we stay with June 1st or we end up on June 15th, and then we'll just put everything all together. So what I would propose is that we will get this information together, send it out to you all with a proposal and see what you think. We could have a quick Zoom meeting much prior to the end of it.
Okay, so we'll just be, if you guys can be flexible on when we need to meet again, just to try and get that in so we can make a full recommendation to the council, then that would be good.
That will change the language of the ordinance that we set to public hearing. So we're going to have the final language. And I think we're all done. There's a few strange things in here, but they're mostly wording items because they came from different towns or districts. And we can clean that up as housekeeping without making any substantive changes whatsoever, and have a whole new ordinance for you. And then when we meet, it'll be very quick, or should be, because we're going to deal with just one subject.
Okay.
That sounds good.
Does anybody have anything else this evening?
Thank you, Chris. You were very helpful.
Yes, thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
We like your kitchen too.
Well, it's old. This is a 1978 mobile home.
I had one many years ago.
Very
old,
pretty wallpaper.
It's not old, it's classic.
Yeah,
That's right.
I remember that. Thank
No
you.
mortgage.
Thank you all very much. You have a nice evening.
Thank
Have
you.
a good evening, guys.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.